Hi everyone, I'm Amy Schmitz Weiss, Associate Professor of Journalism at San Diego State University in the School of Journalism and Media Studies. It's a pleasure to be here with you all virtually today. I'm sorry I cannot be there in person due to some other circumstances, but I would like to thank AEJMC as well as Jennifer for this opportunity to be here with you today to talk about how to build a successful Bridge Grant project. I actually was a recipient of the Bridge Grant project back in 2012, and our students ended up creating a mobile news app called AztecCast as a result of the project. It was a collaboration between our journalism and computer science students over a spring semester in 2012 to build it out. And I'm going to be taking you through the steps of how we went about doing that may help you as you're thinking about perhaps applying for a Bridge Grant and what kind of project you might want to do if you're thinking of implementing something similar with a mobile news app. So let's go ahead and get started. And I've also given some additional resources to Jennifer that she can share with you after this presentation. Hi everyone. So I'm going to be sharing with you some tips based on our Bridge Grant project and what we did that may give you some insight if you're looking at proposing your own Bridge Grant project. So first of all, I'm going to talk with you about what were the outcomes of our project, some tips on how to get started, the components that we had in our project, how we went about building the app, some concluding thoughts, and then some tips and resources to help you out. So as I mentioned, for our project, it was a collaboration between journalism and computer science students during the spring 2012 semester that led to the creation of a mobile news app called AztecCast. We had a website that went along with it that launched in the spring of 2012, and then we had the mobile news app launch in the Apple Store is July 2012, and then our Android platform just launched last summer. The app and the website continue to do very well. We've got daily downloads. The university's Student Life and Leadership Department took over adoption of the application, the mobile news app and website in the fall of 2012, and they have staff that now manage it and post news and information to it on a daily basis. So it's quite exciting for the students to see that their hard work and efforts that they did during the semester continues to live on in a mobile news app and website that has become a good resource and helpful resource for our students and campus community. As part of this project, there was also a research component. I was interested in looking at mobile news consumption among young adults, and so that was also part of this project in which I had an opportunity to do a survey as well as focus groups, and that led to a research article that ended up getting published last fall in JMCQ on looking at mobile apps and geolocation of news consumption among young adults. As part of our project, the collaboration we had between computer science and journalism was great, and it's also led for us to have new collaborations within the College of Sciences and our School of Journalism, which has been quite exciting. And then, of course, at the end of the semester, several of our students were seniors, so many of them who were part of the class had shown their portfolio of the work that they had done on this project, and some of them got jobs in working in the mobile industry, which was quite exciting for them. And several of them became mojos as a result too, in learning several mobile journalism skills in the process. So it was a win-win for everybody. So in terms of thinking about your own Bridge Grant project, first of all, it's important, of course, to have an idea, but maybe think along the lines of having an idea that will help connect the students, the campus, and the community together. Because as a result, this will help you to have more stakeholders in the project, more resources at your availability in terms of getting the project going. And it also helps with establishing learning outcomes if you tie this into a class. Second, make sure to brainstorm with people beyond your department about your Bridge Grant project. Before I put my proposal together, I talked with several people here in the community, with several journalists here as well as nationally, talking with colleagues in different departments to kind of get a sense of whether or not this kind of idea that I had of helping our students have some kind of mobile news app would help the campus community, and looked at that in terms of planning before putting together this full proposal. And it was quite helpful because I was able to get a lot of really good insight. It was found over the research that I had been doing regarding this project that students on our campus and the campus community felt that there was a lack of being informed about what was going on around them. And so this mobile news app had fit an empty space for many of our students in the campus community to feel like they could go to this particular app and website to get news and information about what was going on around their campus. Next, you want to think about what kind of platform you're going to build your project on. There's so many different options nowadays. You can do something that's custom, open source. If you're going to go the mobile app route, are you going to do a native app or a responsive design where it's just responsive design tied to a website? In our particular case, we went with a native app in addition to building out the website. And we also worked with the open source platform of Ushahidi from the Knight Foundation. So if you end up going with a particular platform, make sure that you're also familiar with its capabilities and its uses. Do some tests with it to really see if it's going to work for you or if you have to go in a different direction. In my particular case, we ended up going with the Ushahidi framework, and we did some beta tests on CrowdMap, which was a different version of what we have AztecCast on, to do some beta tests to really see how would our idea play out, and playing around with that a semester before getting the project going. Next is also thinking about a host provider for your project. In some cases, you may be able to use your university resources to host your website for you or your project online. In my particular case, we ended up going with Amazon EC2 servers, which were great and very helpful. They had redundancy, and it allowed for us to make sure that if something happened, the website would not go down, and that we would still be up and running. Also think about identifying students a semester before your class starts, if you tie it into a class project, in order to help generate interest in the class and project. Just don't think that they'll just automatically come the first day of school when enrollment starts for classes. Start to really think about specific students in your school that might really be interested in delving into something new and innovative, and talk with them and invite them perhaps to consider taking the class. Of course, collaboration is important. Don't feel that you have to do your project alone, and it actually will have a better outcome if you collaborate. Working with other departments on campus as well as the local media. In our particular case, we had the opportunity to work with computer science and then also a local nonprofit news organization, iNewsSource, that really helped to make our project really stellar. And lastly, it's also important to think about developing your syllabus and infrastructure a semester before or earlier. Again, if you tie in your Bridge Grant project into a specific class. And with that said, of course, make sure that you give yourself enough room for flexibility for changes during the semester, alternatives to certain assignments or class sessions. It's important because in these particular cases, things can come up, and they do come up. Technical hiccups can come up, other things can come up. And so it's important not to be too rigid or too structured with your syllabus, and give yourself some wiggle room so that way you can adjust and pivot depending on what's happening with your class. Now, in our particular project, we had a lot of different components that would help tie into the learning outcomes of the class, but also the outcomes for the project of building out the mobile news app. So one of those, of course, was community outreach, knowing exactly what do people know and what do they want, and how does this tie into what we're going to build. So we did have the opportunity to have a mobile survey that was administered campus-wide at the beginning of the semester that gave us a foundation by which to understand how people are using their mobile devices on campus and in what ways, so that we would be best informed as to how to build out the app. And then during the semester, we conducted focus groups. We had 3 student sessions and then 1 community session with people from around the community that lived near the university, and kind of asking them what would they want out of a mobile news app that was about the campus. Again, both of these were very helpful in providing us additional information and insight that we could directly import into the creation of our app. And so it allowed for us to really understand if we were on the right track or if we needed to go in a different direction. And it allowed for us to bring in students from all over the campus, as well as people from the community who felt very excited and happy that they were being invited to be a part of this conversation. Also, there were specific strategic assignments that were given throughout the semester that helped to scaffold the students' learning experience. They were low stakes, so not a lot of points were assigned to these, and they were frequent throughout the semester. So it allowed for the students not to feel pressured that they had to perform at their highest with each and every assignment, but really get into the premise of what the assignment was doing, as well as how much it was going to have an impact on the actual creation of the app. Here's a copy of the syllabus. I also have a link at the end of this presentation that you can check out that goes to the syllabus for an additional resource. But throughout the semester, we had the students complete weekly blog posts to reflect on their thoughts and ideas of what they were going through and reflecting on the experience. We had a competitive analysis where they looked at the mobile news app industry in general, as well as on campuses, to get a sense of what's happening out there and how are we going to be different from the rest. A usability analysis of the platform, so really examining all the nuances of Ushahidi, what works, what doesn't, as we build out our own mobile news app. Creating focus group reports that actually documented what people were saying in the focus groups to help, again, give us insight in next steps. We also had team reports for different parts of the build. The students were broken out into different groups accordingly in terms of building out the app and providing reports and answers to information from that. And then a sustainability report at the end of the semester to say, if this app continues to go forward, how would we keep it going? And helping them think about the future as well. So each of these allowed for the assignment to build on the other and scaffold that learning experience in a fun way, and at the same time meet the learning outcomes of the course. We also had a variety of different guest speakers that came both in person as well as virtually over the semester to meet with the students. We had Brant Houston, who came out to talk with the students about the state of journalism. Jed Sunwall, who was a local open source coding developer, innovator. Lori Hearn, who runs the iNewsSource nonprofit news organization that was a part of our class in the project and collaboration. Nat Manning, who is with Ushahidi, who was joined by Skype with us. And then also Brian Boyer, who at that time was with the Chicago Tribune, who came and talked with the students about mobile app development. And each of these guest speakers really provided a lot of different backgrounds and expertise to looking at the world of mobile, looking at the world of journalism, that helped the students to think differently about the different subjects that we had already covered in class, and really give them an outside perspective beyond what they were learning in the classroom. We also used a variety of different techniques to help scaffold the students' learning. We did iPad video meetings with guest speakers, which was quite fun. We did mobile phone testing. So again, with the usability testing section of the class, we went through and tested out different kinds of apps across different platforms to see exactly how would they work out and in what ways, testing out the frameworks. We did brainstorming sessions throughout the semester, as you can see here, and trying to figure out what we were going to focus on in our app and how. We used IDEO cards, which are great. Those are the ones that you see here at the bottom, to really help the students think outside the box about different ways in which we interact with technology, and putting them into groups to think about that. And then we also did mind mapping as well, another activity that allowed for them to think outside the box in terms of any and all ideas, and how would they connect in terms of building out this mobile news app. Now, we also had blogs as part of the project too, that allowed for the students to have a place to express themselves, but also to provide updates in the development of the project, for us to share this information with other people out there who may be interested in knowing what the project is about, as well as to document our progress. So there was the mobile news app blog that was created for the students to provide their perspectives on a weekly basis about the class and their thoughts. And then there's the Mobile News App Educator blog, which was my documentation of how we were going through the project week by week for other educators who may be interested in knowing exactly how everything came together and over the weeks of the semester. Now, in terms of building out the project, you'll want to, of course, think about how much you're going to need more time than you think you need. So really make sure that, again, like I said, you give yourself that flexibility and time to make changes. Because at one point in our project, we were going in one direction, and we had Brian Boyer come and visit our class and talk with the students. And he was able to tell them, focus on something very simple, don't try and do everything. And as a result, we pivot from that point and went in a different direction with our mobile news app to where it is now. And so, of course, I had to make changes to the class structure a little bit in our last remaining weeks of the semester, but it worked out great. But again, you need to make sure that you're accounting for that flexibility and make sure that you're not too rigid in how you've put together the class. In particular for this particular project, I ended up breaking it out into specific steps over the semester to make it easier in terms of how to have the overall structure come together for building out the app. Again, this is just a suggestion, but if you're thinking about going in the same direction about building out a mobile news app, we had 2 weeks that focused on mobile landscape and the foundations, 2 weeks focused on mobile frameworks, 2 weeks focused on mobile app strategy, 1 week that we focused on information architecture, mobile design and layout for 2 weeks, mobile development and coding and simulation for 3 weeks, and then we had the test phase and launch for 4 weeks. So as you can see here, a lot of time was spent towards the end with the development and giving a lot of time for testing, more testing, and then launching. And of course, throughout this process, we also were incorporating the aspects of journalism and how does news and information come through in these particular aspects of looking at the mobile device and its potential. Now, as part of that too, I also broke the students up into groups to achieve different goals. Again, with making sure that we were able to meet and get the mobile app and website launched by the end of the semester. And so instead of having the students do everything, breaking them up into groups and asking them, what area are you most interested in? And then allowing for them to get into those groups and run with it. So we had a mapping group, since the map is a real key part to the Ushahidi framework and to the AztecCast app. Design of how it's going to look and how it's going to be formatted. The information architecture, so how is the content going to be put into the app and into the website and in what ways. And then the content itself. What kind of content did we want people to put into the app and in what ways. So all of these things were crucial in terms of meeting the successful end goal of creating the website and the app at the end of the semester. Now, it's just some concluding thoughts is one, like I said, account for more time than you really need. It's important to be flexible and have alternative plans. Be ready for failure. Experiment, test and try, test and try. For our particular project, like I said, we were going in one direction halfway through, and then we pivot and went in a different direction halfway through the semester, and it worked out. But of course, we had to be willing to take those risks and willing to look at what we had done and realize maybe we need to go in a different direction. And that's okay. The only way you're going to become successful is to recognize that there are going to be failures and to experiment and move forward. The other part to this too is important to recognize your technical resources versus technical hiccups. So make sure that you have alternative plans. Things don't always go as you want them to. Servers can go down, equipment can fall apart, versions of things, software may not work out. Especially if you're going with the open source route, there are sometimes differences in terms of versions and variations that you have to account for. Bugs that may come into the actual language, programming language, when you're working on building things out. So be aware that those things can happen and make sure that you've got resources on hand that can help you in that regard. It's important also to keep it simple. Try not to be too complex with your project. The more simple you make it, the easier it will be for you to achieve. Have technical expertise on hand. Don't do it alone. So again, don't feel like you have to know everything and anything, but make sure that you've got resources available to you to help you in terms of getting around that. Of course, bring the community into the project. They are key stakeholders into the success of it, and will help spread the word about it. So as a result of us bringing in the community, they were very excited when it launched and spread the word to folks in the community surrounding the campus about this news app, and it really made a difference. Now realize too, once your project launches, it's not over. Seek partners and collaborators to keep it going. So in this particular case, the students spent all this time and effort for us to create this mobile news app. I certainly did not want to see it just end there. And so I spent a lot of time figuring out what were going to be different ways in which this app could live on, and spoke with various different departments on our campus, including our campus newspaper, to see about ways in which they may want to take it on. And ultimately, the Student Life and Leadership Department ended up taking on the app and adopting it. So, a couple of resources for you. I have this website that was created as part of the project. You can go to mobilenewseducator.wordpress.com. It's got the sample syllabus from the class. It has some tip sheets, the class blog about the project, the website, and some mobile reporting tools that you can take a look at. In particular for this project, like I said, we used Ushahidi, and Ushahidi is great. They've got all of their code up online on GitHub, so you can go to Ushahidi and download the latest version of their framework, as well as their latest version of the iPhone deployment and the Android deployment, which is what we used. I also have my GitHub files from my mobile news app from 2012 that are up on my website. You can use it, but it's a few versions older, of the files that are up there from what Ushahidi has now, because they've been making new versions of their platform since 2012. But they're great in terms of downloading the code and being able to go with it and run forward with it if you're thinking about going in that direction. Another helpful resource is the mobilereportingfieldguide.com. This is a free book that you can get online that talks about how to use your smartphone for mobile reporting, again, if you're moving in that direction. And then also there is this online book that was created by Alyssa Richardson and Jeremy Kaplan that goes over tips for mobile ninjas in terms of how to think about doing mobile reporting and the world of mobile journalism. It can also be helpful if you're venturing into this area as well. And like I said, there's some more resources up on my website that you can take a look at. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, so feel free to shoot me an email or even send me a tweet since I can't be there with you in person. And I've also given some additional resources to Jennifer to pass out to you. Thanks again for the opportunity, and have a great rest of the day.